Welcome to this Hooked on Horses episode here at Pretty Pony Pastures. Today we're going to find out what should be in a first aid kit for horses and what kind of first aid you as a horse owner should know. Now you probably have a medicine chest or a drawer in your home where Band-Aids, thermometers, antiseptic, and a few other things are stored. Did you know you should also have a first aid kit at your barn? It needs to have the things that you would need for your horse if she got sick or injured. Of course, if your horse is hurt bad, you'll always want to call the vet first. And even if it doesn't look that bad, you might still want to talk to your vet before treating your horse. So let's look and see what you should have in your barn's first aid kit. What do you think should be in a barn first aid kit? Well, first of all, I don't have a first aid kit in my barn. I have a first aid cabinet. It has everything I need in it. So let's look inside and see what I've got there. The first item that every first aid kit should have is something to clean a wound with. Just like people, soap and water is good. Even cold running water from the hydrant will work, but you should use some type of mild soap. It doesn't have to be antiseptic, but it needs to be unscented. And you should have a clean gauze to be able to remove any dirt from the wound. You don't have a gauze, any type of a washcloth will be just fine. The thing is, you want to rinse it off with water and soap and gauze or a washcloth to avoid infection. But don't rub it real hard because that could make it bleed. So once you have it all cleaned out, the next thing you're going to need to do is put an antiseptic on it. Now in our barn, we use a triple antibiotic ointment for the wounds, but always contact your vet first before putting anything on a major wound. Now, if it's a wound that you can't bandage, you're going to need fly repellent ointment during the spring, summer, and fall months. At our barn, we use SWAT, but you can use any kind as long as it's an ointment that will repel the flies, because flies love to come and bother the horses, especially if they have a cut or wound. Now the thing is, you put the antibiotic ointment right on the wound. You want to put this around the wound because you don't want to put this inside the wound where the bleeding or the irritation is. So let's talk about an injury on your horse's leg. Now you just can't put a bandage on a horse, especially if it's on the body where there's a lot of fur, and you can't really bandage a leg either. So what you want to do is have padding and vet wrap. The padding you want to get looks like this. It is something you'd find in the nursery or baby department in a store, and we put it on the changing table when we're changing a baby, but this is nice, big, and soft. We can use it on our horse. So let's say our horse's leg is hurt. We're going to fold the pad like this, and then we're going to wrap it around the horse's leg. Now you notice that I'm holding it, so we just can't wrap it and leave it on the horse. We have to do something with it to keep it on. And that's where the vet wrap comes in. The vet wrap is elasticy and it's sticky. And so you would wrap this around the padding and that would hold it on the horse's leg. The padding is going to absorb the bleeding if there's any and keep the ointment on the wound. So this is what it looks like. Here we have a picture of the padding that's wrapped around the horse's leg, and then the vet wrap is put around it. The reason that you want to put the pad on, of course, is to keep the ointment or antiseptic in place, and the pad can absorb any bleeding. And the vet wrap you want to put around so that it's snug, but not too tight. You don't want to turn it into a tourniquet. You will want to keep the vet wrap a little bit below the top and below the bottom of the padding. So let's say for whatever reason you don't have any pads. Well, don't worry. You can use a sheet. You can use even a diaper, anything that will hold the ointment in place and absorb the bleeding if there is any. And vet wrap is very inexpensive, so always invest in a few rolls at your barn. Now, the other thing that horses like to do is step on rocks. And even though you might say, well, they're in a grassy, sandy paddock, you never know when a rock is going to magically appear. The horse is running and it steps on it. You end up with an abscess on the foot. The abscess has to be drawn out. And that means that we have to soak the foot and be able to pull the abscess out. An abscess is just another word for a bacterial infection. So what are we going to use? The best thing that we can use is Epsom salt. It is a magnesium sulfate. You put it in the water and you soak the horse's foot in it. Now, how are you going to do that? Well, look at this. You get a bucket. Now, this is a rather big bucket that we have in this picture, but the horse has its foot in it, and it's going to have to keep it there for probably about 10 or 30 minutes. So when you have to soak your horse's foot, this is something you should have trained your horse to do ahead of time. In our barn, we do train our horses to put their feet into water in a small bucket or a large bucket like this one, so that should we ever have to soak their foot, that's something that they're already used to. Now, they have an abscess in their foot, you've soaked it, and now you're going to have to treat it. So here you see that we've made a paste out of the magnesium sulfate or the Epsom salt. A little water, Epsom salt, and it looks like this one is medicated too. You are going to spread it on the horse's hoof. Next, you're going to put a pad on it or a diaper and use vet wrap to hold the pad on the hoof. But the vet wrap alone isn't going to do it. So it's best that you have duct tape. And the duct tape you can wrap around the vet wrap, and it's going to hold it in place. And not only that, but it's going to help protect it, because as the horse is walking around, the vet wrap is kind of thin and they would wear it off. Where with the duct tape, it has a better chance of staying on the horse's hoof and having it healed. Now, as a side note, the vet wrap comes in a variety of colors. So pick your barn colors or pick your favorite color, but be sure that you have some vet wrap in your barn all the time. Next type of injury that your horse might get is your eye. The horse's eyes are delicate, and if the horse injures their eye, you should not ever try to treat it by yourself. Call your vet first. Now, sometimes your vet might say, here's what you do, rinse it out with saline solution. Saline solution, you recognize this. This is the same type of solution that you would use for contact lenses. So it's available in your drugstore. Keep a bottle of this handy in your barn, and you can rinse your horse's eye with it if that is what your vet says to do. It's sterile, so it's safe for your horse's eye. Not only that, you should pack this if you go trail riding with your horse, because it is sterile. Your horse gets hurt. It's safer than using running water, especially if you're camping. Now, if your horse has an injury on their eye, you're not going to be able to put swat on it, because you don't want to put anything near the horse's eye that could injure the eye. So how are you going to keep flies out? Well, the next thing I want to show you is a fly mask. Now, they come in a variety of colors and fashions, but a fly mask is handy not only to keep the flies out of your horse's eyes, but also to keep them off an injury. Now, my horses have to wear fly masks even in the winter when there are no bugs out, because they do have an eye problem and we have to keep the sun out of their eyes. But a fly mask is something that you should keep even if you feel that you don't need it to keep flies out. Eye injury, you are going to need that fly mask. Here's a few more things you need in your first aid kit. We talked about these in the STEM classes. You need a thermometer. This is the same thermometer I used in the STEM class. Don't forget, if you have one, and they're not that expensive, have your stethoscope handy. And the other thing you should have is your weight tape. This way you can always tell your vet how much your horse weighs, and the amount of medication your horse gets depends on the weight. You might also want to keep something like this. These are electrolytes. Now, you can use Gatorade or electrolytes. they encourage your horse to drink. So if your horse is a little colicky, you might want to add some electrolytes to your horse's water to get him to drink more, because the water and drinking the water will help the colic. You also want nitrate gloves or rubber gloves, because if you have to put a medication on your horse, you don't want to put it on your skin. You want to protect your skin. You might also want to have scissors. Always have scissors that are rounded at the point and not the long ones that look like a dagger. You never know when you have to cut the gauze. If you're wrapping, you have to cut the gauze, you have to cut something else. So you want a short pair of scissors in your kit. You also want to have a flashlight. Now, horses don't only get injured in the daytime. They get injured at night as well. And so keep a flashlight handy. Some barns don't have good lighting. Some stalls don't have any lighting. And if you're treating your horse in the stall, you want to have either a flashlight that you can hang, or one of the things I used to have is a flashlight that you could wear on your forehead. This way, both hands are free and you can work on your horse. Now, something that some people don't think too much about is having a reusable ice bag. The reason for that is you may have to put a cold compress on your horse's leg. So this one comes with ties. You can tie it, and then you can vet wrap it, or better yet, you can use a polo wrap and put this around it. These don't stick as much as the vet wrap does, but it does keep an ice pack on your horse's leg for whatever length of time, 15 minutes, 30 minutes before taking it off. And of course, no first aid kit should be without a pencil and paper. And you saw these in an earlier episode too. We used them for our vital signs. Keep this handy. Always write down anything that you gave your horse and what time, so that when you refer to it to your vet, you've got everything well documented. So, knowing all of this, how prepared do you think you are in case there's an emergency with your horse? One of the most important things to remember is to stay calm. And make sure that your vet's number is posted in your barn. Not only that, put it right in your cell phone, so that should something happen, you have the number right there handy in your phone. Like scouts, if you have a horse, you should always be prepared. Thanks for being here, and be sure to like this video and share it with your friends. If you're watching on Facebook, like the page too, so you'll be notified the next time we post a video. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to this channel and don't forget to ring the bell. If you're watching us on Instagram, then be sure to follow us so you'll see our next video when we post it. And I'll see you next time right here on Hooked on Horses.